Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang samgham namasami. So I hope you've all had a good day of practice. And that doesn't, of course, mean a peaceful day or an easy day. Sometimes the practice can be very challenging for us. But whatever's been your experience of the day, I know, I trust, and I celebrate, the fact that we've all been doing the good work of being willing to be with the way things are and allow the letting go to happen, and slowly but surely, free the heart from suffering. So this is really something awesome, and it's rare in the world, something to really appreciate for ourselves and for each other. So it's a really lovely Sangha. I'm appreciating so much this Sangha this weekend, this group experience. And I think following on from the question and answer session today, my sense is it would be good to say a few words about bringing in the Brahma Viharas, bringing in the qualities of kindness, loving kindness and compassion into our practice. And sometimes people feel, oh gee, I can't practice loving kindness. In fact, I really hate metta. Truly, that can be the feeling for people. Oh, she's not going to talk about that. And that's really totally fine, because metta is not actually, metta bhavana, the practice of loving kindness. It's not necessarily that we have to have a heart brimming with love. We don't have to feel love at all, actually, to practice metta bhavana. And that's a really important point, isn't it? Because, this is the remedy for hatred. This is the remedy for aversion in the heart. And so, of course, we're not feeling love at such times. But when we are afflicted with these negative states of mind, and that can be, a negative mood, a negative emotion, and there can be all sorts of horrible, difficult, painful thoughts connected with aversion, can't there? And we can feel badly about that. So that adds to the problem. We can not only have aversion, but we can hate ourselves for having aversion. And so it goes on. So we can be really in a big ball of suffering in this way, and really tangled up in it, with a lot of self-blame and self-judgment coming in. And so, yeah, there's not love in the heart at such times. But thankfully, we have the teachings of the Buddha to guide us. And so we know, yes, okay, the remedy for hatred, for aversion of any kind, for anger, the remedy is loving kindness. So oftentimes the practice of loving kindness is one of being willing to be with very unpleasant, painful, negative feelings, but with the knowledge, the sense that there is this quality there is this quality in the heart. We may have experienced it in the past. We may have people in our lives whom we love, who we care for, who we cherish. And one way to help ourselves to sort of deflect the attention away from negativity and towards loving kindness is to think of people or animals or situations where we felt love in the heart, and just to let the memory come up for us. Very skillful. We're not avoiding anything, because the process, if we're meditating, the process of clearing out all the negativity will be continuing for us. But we can ease the situation. We can avoid overwhelm. We can avoid getting caught up in negativity if we remember and bring in the quality of loving kindness through these kind of recollections. And also, over time, we might find ourselves able to connect with the feeling of love in the heart. It's often in the heart, in the center of the body, that we can feel that cool and spacious quality. Or it could be a warm quality. It depends on the person. But just to feel, what is it like when I have thoughts of loving kindness? What is it like when I think of the ones I love? What is it like when I wish myself well? And sometimes in the midst of a sort of hate storm, we can just say a few sentences to ourselves. May I be well. May I get through this. May I find peace. May I be free from this suffering. Remembering that, we would wish for anyone who's struggling and suffering in this way that they be well and that they be free from suffering. So in the same way, we can direct this kind of well-wishing towards ourselves. So there are ways, to start to slowly bring in this kind quality, and to ease the relationship with the aversion in the mind. And slowly but surely we can really start to develop this quality in our lives. And it's worth developing, for sure. It really helps in our practice in the long term. It helps us to sustain our practice, doesn't it? Because, we never know what's coming. We never know what's around the next corner, actually. Because as I said earlier today, in relation to the six senses, the Buddha said, we're dealing with old karma all the time when we practice, when we're actually allowing new karma to stop being created. How do we do that? Well, when we sit and meditate, we're not creating any new karma. This is a very precious thing. We're not actually pursuing our habits right now. We're not actually going with our energies right now, our wanting and our not wanting. No, we've stopped. We're sitting. We're making time to do nothing, but in a very dynamic and active way. But we've stopped creating new karma. So the dynamic and active practice is facing the old karma, seeing what's going on, what's unwinding, what's unraveling, what's revealing itself to us. And so, we don't quite know what's in there, or what is going to come up for us in our experience in meditation practice. We know we're making space. We know we're allowing past karma to arise and pass away in the form of thoughts, feelings, emotions, body states, also pains, aches in the body, and so forth, whatever arises. And so the Buddha repeatedly encouraged us to develop a heart of loving kindness, develop an attitude of kindness towards ourselves and naturally then also towards others. And in the monasteries we have chants that we do that encourage us to recollect not just loving kindness but also compassion and joy and equanimity. And we have these beautiful recollections again and again coming into our lives as we chant the words of the Buddha. And the way in which we practice loving kindness is, first of all, for this one. So, it has to start at home. It has to start here. And truly, whenever we remember, whenever we're able to consider the quality of loving kindness at the times when it's most needed, at the times when we're not feeling any loving kindness whatsoever towards ourselves, then we're really, we're doing something very amazing. We're turning things around. And it's wonderful that we can do this. We have the capacity. These divine abidings, these qualities of love, compassion, joy, and peace, calm, equanimity, are qualities that this chitta, this mind, each of our minds are filled with. It's like the sun shining. It's a constant for us. These qualities are there for us, but they can be obscured. And, we can have very stormy skies and overcast, cloudy times that persist for weeks, months, years. But nevertheless, the sun is there, it's still shining. It's just obscured. And we can even forget about it. We can even forget that it's there. But the Buddha reminded us again and again that we have the capacity, we have the opportunity to develop these qualities through bringing them back to mind, remembering that this is, in a way, our natural state. The mind that is free from defilements, the mind that's free from dukkha, from suffering, in the form of greed, all the different kinds of wanting, in the form of hatred, all the different kinds of not wanting, and in the form of ignorance, just not really seeing clearly. All these ways of obscuring the mind, they are really like the clouds. They are really passing. And, we can help to ease their journey, to be able to wave goodbye to them a bit sooner by bringing out the sunshine, bringing up these divine qualities. And so I really encourage everybody, not to feel that these are out of reach at any time. And it is so radical. It's so radical to know, to understand that the remedy for hatred is love. Full stop. There's no other way that hatred can be alleviated, relieved. And it's so terribly sad, isn't it, that if we don't know that, if we've not been taught that, then we can think that, the way to remedy hatred is through more hatred, to pile in more on top. And we see that all around us in the world. And it's so confusing and it's so sad. It's not easy to generate love in an atmosphere of hatred. But we have, fortunately, the Buddha's teachings, and also, many other great beings, great human beings in our history, even in our contemporary times, who have demonstrated this for us. And we love that. It's so powerful to see people who forgive, who can move through terrible suffering and who manage to continue to understand that the sun is shining in there and that they can actually generate these beautiful qualities, and this is their protection. This is their, way. This is the way to get through any kind of difficult, painful situation that we may have to face, in the form of illness, in the form of, incapacity, in the form of difficult situations that come, often, could be through no fault of our own. Difficult things happen. And rather than spending our time railing against our fate and finding out who's to blame and dwelling in grudges, no, life's too short. We need to bring up these qualities of love, compassion, and calm, peacefulness, and make much of them. And this helps us to get through anything and everything that might come and obstruct our way and cause us to suffer. So there's a beautiful sutta in Anguttara 11s. It's quite a famous one. You may well have heard of it. That tells us all the advantages of practicing metta, cultivating loving kindness in the heart. And it's quite an inspiring list, and I'd like to see if I can remember it to tell you, because we can really take heart from this list, and I hope to encourage everybody to really give a lot of energy to this beautiful practice of Metta Bhavana. So the Buddha said, if one practices metta consistently, regularly, often, then we can notice that when we go off to sleep at night, we go off very peacefully to sleep. We have no difficulty getting the sleep we need. When we dream at night, the dreams we have are peaceful, are not at all disturbing for us. And when we wake up in the morning, we wake up easefully, peacefully, without any great disturbance. He said, people love us. If we practice loving kindness, we're dear to people. People love us, people care for us. Not only people, but also non-humans care for us. Animals love us. Devas love us. The angels or the devas look down on us with a benevolent eye. They like our company. So because they're around us, they protect us. So we get to have guardian angels when we practice loving kindness. Actually, we're surrounded. We don't see the devas, but we're sharing the space, as it were. But they won't come near us if we're, operating from hatefulness and aversion or giving energy to those qualities. But if we're trying, even just trying, or we're actually managing to practice loving kindness, then they will be attracted to us and they'll look after us and protect us. The Buddha said, if we practice loving kindness, this gives us protection also. Natural protection from poisons, from weapons, and from fire. And doesn't mean we don't sort of take care to try and avoid dangerous situations, of course. Like at Dhammadharani or Ayya Bodhi, down in California, of course, there's the need to respond to the dangers of fire in the hot season and be prepared, and have all the contingencies, all the plans, and be ready to flee. It's an unfortunate reality for so many people now, isn't it? That we have to look out for fires. But nevertheless, it's quite comforting to me to know that metta practice it gives some protection. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but I like to think that it's another encouragement to practice metta, for sure. Also not to, assume that, people who get caught in fires or who get shot you know, it's because they're not practicing metta. I'm not saying that at all. You know that. It's just an encouragement for us. Bad things happen to good people all the time. Another opportunity for us to really contemplate karma. But if we're able to practice loving kindness, I understand from the teachings of the Buddha that this gives us a degree of protection, and perhaps it helps us to feel safe. You know, we have a number of chants that we do to invite various beings, such as snakes, stinging things, biting things, things that chew buildings up, things that infest buildings. All these dear beings, we have chants, loving chants, to request them and invite them to please move on, if you don't mind. And I find that very lovely, you know, that the first thing we do as monastics, as practitioners, we can, before we start to think of other measures that we may have to, you know, go into, first of all, we offer loving chants, respectfully requesting, could you consider moving on, please? So, you know, again, a respectful relationship with the beings around us, I'm sure, is felt by those beings, actually, and we can hopefully, perhaps, prevent so much danger and trouble through our metta practice. Just something to consider. The Buddha also said if we practice metta, we're able to meditate much more easily. So we can develop samadhi through our metta practice. Metta is an object of concentration. It's a meditation object for us. If we feel the need, or if we would like to develop this quality further. And I would say that if we have experience of a lot of aversion in our lives, which many people dwell in aversion much of the time, then this is a time, this is a kind of mind, this is an opportunity to really consider making metta practice our object of meditation. And it focuses the mind, it calms the mind, it brings in coolness, peacefulness. It helps us to direct the attention away from thoughts and feelings and all the dukkha associated with negativity in the mind, and to rest in this quality. And I'll speak a bit more about that once I've got through my list, this list in Anguttara Nikaya, the 11 benefits of practicing metta. Another one is that we have a serene countenance. We have a beautiful face. We have a, you know, attractive features, because we're not frowning and grimacing as much, I guess. You know, but how lovely is that? And the final two relate to the end of life. That when we come to the time of death, we die peacefully and with a clear mind. So we're able to bear even the really sometimes terrible sufferings at the end of life. We have this resource, you know, we can be with, and we can stay calm, we can stay peaceful. How wonderful is that? For me, that's, in and of itself, that's the incentive to practice metta. But the other benefit of loving kindness relating to death is, the Buddha said, if we practice loving kindness consistently, then we're bound to go to a good destination. So whatever your beliefs of the afterlife, in Buddhism, there's the understanding that we come back again and again. Essentially, not we, but any unfinished business, any karma that's not been put to rest, will continue the life energy and take birth in another form. So, for the benefit of that future, it's worth practicing metta, and the destination then, the trajectory of this mind, this heart, is going in a good direction. If we don't want to think about after death, what might happen, or we're not sure what we think about it, just consider the next moment, next week, next month, next year. If we're practicing loving kindness, it's brightening our future, the future. So in all these different ways, the Buddha was really encouraging us to develop this practice. And he asked us to practice in particular ways. I just mentioned before, thinking of someone that we love or people that we love, and allowing this recollection of the dear to fill the heart with loving kindness, to begin the practice in this way. And it's a really good way to start practicing loving kindness. But then the Buddha invited us to extend this benevolent, unconditional love to all beings. And, we can start with those who are dear to us and move toward those, considering those who we don't particularly have strong feelings towards, who are acquaintances, people that we come across in our daily life. And then we can extend further to those with whom we have any kind of difficulty, anyone who we might incline to think of as not our friend, even our enemy, anyone who we hold a grudge towards, anyone who we struggle with, in relationship. And it's really quite transformative when we can offer this towards our thoughts and feelings around such people, because it changes things. It changes our attitude slowly but surely. So if there's anyone in your life who you feel really, just the thought of them makes you angry or makes you feel hatred, then it's very helpful indeed to make a practice of just bringing that person to mind and allow the thought of loving kindness to come in. And just slowly but surely we can whittle away at those painful feelings. After all, we're the ones who are suffering. So to alleviate that suffering that we're bearing. And then, it's amazing how we can start to actually feel differently about people, actually wish to connect with them in a more healthy, happy way. So this is really something that changes the world. It brings peace to the world. It's no small thing to work with our sense of enemy and allow that sense of enemy to turn into something benevolent, kind and loving. Even if we've been very badly hurt, we're only hurting ourselves more, aren't we, when we hold on to a grudge? We're just continuing the hurt, continuing the pain here. And so, it's really an imperative for us to try to come out of this kind of suffering and allow forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't something to do with forgetting what's been done, what's happened that may be painful for us. Forgiveness is about making peace with our own hearts. And then having made peace with our past, we can also allow others sort of to have their freedom. We can free them from our grudge. We can free them from our need to punish or to get revenge, or even just to think poorly of them. That can stop. And that's a gift. It's a gift to us, it's a gift to others. So the important aspect of metta here is that it's unconditional. It's a divine abiding because it doesn't distinguish. It's not judging. It's not picking and choosing, who's worthy and who isn't. We're not discriminating in any way at all. And another way the Buddha gave us to practice loving kindness is to simply radiate it forth. Again, like the sun shining, we can fill our hearts with this feeling of benevolence, of well-wishing, of kindness, of love. And we can just feel the expansion of this energy and let it radiate from us in all directions. And the Buddha gave guidance about literally radiating it to the north, and then the south, the east, the west, and the other 4 points, up also and down. And it's a really lovely thing to do, actually. We can bring in imagination, we can consider what's in those directions and think about where it's going, or we can just feel the sense of slowly but surely radiating forth this good and healing energy in all directions. And of course, the same advice, the same instructions, the same practice applies to the other divine abidings, the other Brahma Viharas. So we can do that in the same way. We can generate compassion in the heart. We can generate joy, and we can generate equanimity. And, there's a time for each of these qualities, isn't there? So there's always a time for loving kindness. Like, it's always relevant. It's always of benefit. Compassion, is our response, our wise, our clear response to suffering. When we see suffering around us, if we're open, if we're alert, aware, we're mindful, we feel the suffering around us as if it were our own. We resonate with that suffering, don't we? We hear some bad news, or we see somebody who's having difficulties, and we immediately feel, oh yes, the pain of that. The important aspect of compassion is not that we don't actually, it doesn't require us to suffer. It's not that we're suffering, it's that we're empathizing. We're able to feel how it is. It's a quality that's cool and it's resourced. We're not overwhelmed by the suffering of others when we practice karuna, we practice compassion. No, we're with the situation, but we are resourced, and we can extend this beautiful quality of compassion. It's almost like quivering with passion, with feeling, with empathy. And it's not pity either. It's not that we pity people. There's no sense of separation. Poor you, sort of, I'm okay. No, it's there's no separation in it. It's simply being with. It's like when someone's struggling and suffering, it's like taking their hand, or it's like putting an arm around their shoulder. We're in this together. And so this quality is something also to really cultivate as a resource to, in a way, relate skillfully to all the suffering around us. It's the wise response, it's the divine abiding. And we can radiate compassion in the same way. And remember, it's unconditional nature. When we look at a situation where there's great suffering, it's often easy to kind of take sides. There's the victim and there's the perpetrator. And we care for the victim and we can develop aversion toward those who we blame. But this is a very unskillful approach, because we're making distinctions that really don't apply. You know, in a situation where there's great suffering, everyone's suffering. Everyone's suffering. And the compassion can then extend to everybody involved. And there's a real truth and wisdom to that eases the heart. And it's not always easy to see things in that way. But if we practice karuna, compassion, as a regular practice, then it's not so difficult at all to appreciate that everyone suffers when harm is done. And actually, the truth is, the suffering, the real source of suffering, is when we have cruel or harmful intentions, you know. So the compassion goes there. And joy, sympathetic joy, mudita, this divine quality, is a response to good things happening, you know, in the field around us. When we see people doing well, you know, having a good life, having good fortune, we can rejoice in that and really feel, you know, that again, the lack of separation between us and them. So you can see how compassion and mudita, sympathetic joy, are dependent upon the situation, whether it's a situation of suffering or a situation of good fortune, of happiness and well-being. But these qualities can be cultivated independently of the circumstances around us. And usually when the Buddha was speaking about loving kindness, he would speak about all four of these Brahma Viharas and encourage a development and cultivation of each of the four. And the last one, equanimity, of course, applies again to any and every situation. To be steady, to be unshakable. And really, to me, all of our practice, our meditation practice, is a cultivation of this beautiful quality of upekkha, equanimity. It's a factor of enlightenment, isn't it? It's the culminating factor. It's the culminating factor of the divine abidings. It's the parami, the last of the 10 parami. So all of this is pointing to the importance of upekkha, of unshakability. And we're surely cultivating this right here and now, in our retreat, in our day, in our meditation practice, on a daily basis. Because when we sit with the mind that's all over the place, with the emotions that are coming and going, with the pains in the body, with the wanted and the not wanted, and we're willing to just be with whatever arises, not act on our desires, not turn away from aversion, but be with the difficult, the painful. We're developing equanimity, we're developing patience, and these qualities are so beautiful. They make us safe. We're safe. We're not of danger to anyone or anything. We're steady. We're dependable. We can, instead of following the roller coaster ups and downs of life, and reacting and flailing around with all of that, we can be steady, stay calm, stay cool, have the AC of the heart. And so this beautiful quality of equanimity, it's something we're developing quite naturally when we practice, but we can also bring it to mind, and we can grow it. We can apply it. When we're having multiple hindrance attacks, we can simply remember we have this quality. We can stay calm. We can observe what's going on from a kind of vantage point, a bit like climbing up a hill. Equanimity is like the hill we can climb, and we can get to the top, and we can stand up there, and we can view the whole scene, and we can see very clearly the whole territory, the whole terrain. This is the kind of gift of equanimity, allowing space around things, allowing that essential sense of hands-off distance, so that we can view all the experiences as they come and go, and not get entangled, not get caught up, not react. So these are just a few words about particularly loving kindness, but also the other Brahma Viharas, the other divine abidings. And I would really like to, encourage everybody to consider them and consider bringing them into your practice. And as I said earlier during the Q&A, for me, it has become, my practice has become one of kind of the meeting of sati, of mindfulness, and metta, loving kindness. Like the two, I find, go hand in hand. They're together because it's like when we're developing our mindfulness, it's like having an attitude, having a sort of continual way of viewing reality through generating loving kindness. It's like let loving kindness be our kind of affect, our attitude towards all experience. And it is really then a quality of kind of welcoming what comes for us, what is present for us, a sort of receptivity, and most definitely there's a soothing quality, so that when difficult mind states, emotions, feelings arise, it's almost like, there's this balm for the wound, there's this cooling quality, and we can apply it at any time. So I hope you can also benefit from the development of Metta Bhavana, and from cultivating these other beautiful qualities of compassion, joy, and equanimity.
Andamayanga Makataya Sadhu Karanga Ramase Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu.
So thank you, everybody, and we have a little bit of time for anybody who'd like to bring in any reflections, questions, anybody who'd like to share on this topic of the Brahma Viharas. Okay, we have a question in the room from our friend Damika, so we're just getting the microphone set up. Okay. Touch your chin. Yeah.
Gratitude works the same way as metta in practice, does it?
Thank you, Damika. Lovely. Yeah, gratitude and metta. I think they're, different qualities, but that also, yes, they have certain things in common with one another. And what they have in common is that they lift the heart, that they ease the heart. And it's really interesting how powerful gratitude can be for us. And, I know many people, not just Buddhists, but many people have a practice of considering what they're grateful for, writing lists, and or recollecting every day at the end of the day things to be grateful for. It's quite a mainstream practice, and I think that's wonderful. And as Buddhists, we can certainly bring that in to our practice, because well, it perhaps depends a little bit on the person, but you know, we all have a negative bias. We all have the tendency to focus on the difficulties, don't we? And take for granted almost the positives in our lives. It's a bit like being ill, isn't it? I mean, when I'm ill, I really know it. I mean, I'm so aware that I'm not well. It's all encompassing. It really takes the attention. It doesn't go unrecognized. It's not neglected as a rule when we're unwell, when we're sick. But when we're healthy, we can just forget all about sickness, can't we? We don't even enjoy the fact that we're healthy necessarily. We just take it for granted until we get sick again. And then it's that precious, elusive, wonderful state. Well, the Buddha was constantly reminding us to remember, reminding us to remember to recollect that we have bodies that are liable to sickness, that are liable to aging, and that are liable to die. Definitely going to die. We don't think about that so much. We tend to just want to enjoy, I guess, the good times while they last, but we can't fully enjoy them. We can't fully appreciate them unless we have the awareness of, you know, the other side of reality, and the awareness that these things don't last, these things are transient. Real joy and happiness, I think, come from a good appreciation of anicca, of change, because we can fully appreciate good things knowing that they're going to come to an end anytime now. You know, that's when we're really fully appreciative. So gratitude practice is a very helpful way to remind us that we can't take anything for granted, and also to remind us perhaps that there are so many very simple givens in our lives that we tend to, you know, assume that they're our right, you know, like having water, having clean water. Not only that, but having clean water that comes out of the tap. I mean, how fantastic is that? Having clean air up here in Canmore, beautiful, very noticeable to me, coming from the UK, how clean the air is here by comparison. Oh my goodness, I could taste it when I arrived. I was gulping it down. It's really, you know, really noticeable. Clear skies, clear air, having a beautiful place to live, having a house to live in. Wow, that's amazing. And so forth, you know. So it's really a lovely practice, actually, when we're struggling, when things are difficult, if we have health issues, if we have worries and concerns in life, to just recollect and bring to mind the things that we do have, the benefits we are actually receiving every day. And so thank you for bringing that in, Dhammika, because it's another way, just as the divine abidings are a way of encouraging us and helping us along the path, and helping us to relate to the world in a skillful way, to see clearly. So is gratitude practice a really good way to help us, support us, give us a sense of enthusiasm, give us a sense of well-being in our practice. So I'll do. So we have a few more minutes, just if anyone else has anything come to mind that you'd like to share or ask. Yeah, okay, we've got Danusha and then Scott. Danusha.
Yeah. Um, I have a question. In Goenka retreats, they encourage to practice metta meditation after sitting, and they emphasize that you have to check if your mind and body both are comfortable before doing metta meditation. Personally, I also found that it's easy to spread metta when I am happy, especially mentally if I'm happy. So I spread metta after I finish my mindful meditation and my mind is in a good condition, good, happy, peaceful state. It's easy to spread metta. But is it always that way, or can you just um, start with metta? Or because
Mm.
sometimes in other monks, sometimes mostly Sri Lankan monks, they encourage to start with metta before mindful meditation. What do you think, which one is more beneficial?
Thank you so much, Danusha. Yeah. Well, I think it could be a case of, first of all, whether meta's better practiced like at the beginning of a sitting, or whether, like in the Goenka tradition, people practice it at the end of a sitting. I think it's something one could just try out for oneself, and see how it works for you. You could even try practicing it at the beginning and at the end of the sitting, and maybe all the way through as well. So just to really see, because people, there are so many Dharma teachers, which is wonderful, and so many teachings. And we can sometimes feel, oh, it's a bit confusing, because one teacher or teaching is saying do it like this, and the other's saying do it like that. And actually, generally one can take all the teachings on board and then just try them out, and find out, how does this work for you? Like if you practice metta at the beginning of a sitting, it's very likely to enable a comfortable abiding, and a heart that's already quite focused, and a sense of well-being that can then carry through the meditation practice. That's really great. Also, at the end of a sitting, we've done some good work, we can be very sure of that. Even if it doesn't feel like we've got anywhere, we have spent time practicing, and will have moved mountains for sure. So, at the end of a sitting, we can share the merit of our practice with all beings, cultivating that heart of loving kindness and spreading the loving kindness all around. And that's such a beneficial thing. Depending on our intentionality, Danusha, depending on your aim, metta practice, if one's intention is to really bless and radiate loving kindness throughout the universe, which we can do, then it's good to get comfortable first. It's good to have a really eased and comfortable body in order to have the best effect, because then we can, if we're comfortable here, we're resourced here, then we can really do that metta practice for all beings. On the other hand, if we're struggling with aversion in the mind, in the heart, then we don't need to have special conditions. Just start bringing metta to mind right now. And equally with bodily pain, discomfort, we can definitely practice metta. But the intention's slightly different. The intention there is first and foremost to help the process that's being experienced right now, help the aversion to ease, to find its way to peace. So all different ways we can practice metta. Yeah, thank you. Does that answer your
Yes.
query?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And finally, we have a question from Scott. Yes, please, Scott.
Yes, I was just wondering if one could develop deep samadhi or jhana through metta meditation alone.
Thank you. I'm really glad you bring that in, because yes, we can. It can be our main object of meditation, and the result of practicing metta, making it, our prime focus, is that it calms the mind. It develops samadhi for us. This is one of the 11 benefits of practicing metta from the sutta I was talking about. We are calmed, the mind becomes more one-pointed, and it is most definitely a gateway into jhana practice, because it really helps us to let go. When we practice metta, not just aversion, not just the negative, hateful aspects of the hindrances are eased and dissipated by metta practice, but all the hindrances, actually, all the hindrances can be helped on their way by practicing metta. And to be able to enter jhana is simply to be free from the hindrances and to have a mind that's focused and one-pointed. And then inevitably, over time, with practice, we do the deeper letting go that enables us to experience jhana. And yep, metta is definitely a way to do that. And so are the other Brahma Viharas. So thank you for bringing that in. It's really good for people to know that. If you practice compassion, if you practice sympathetic joy, cultivating a joyful heart is a way to really calm the mind, develop samadhi, and enter jhana, and also, of course, equanimity. Thank you, Scott. Okay, well, we've come to the end of our session now. So I actually think it would be really nice if you have the time just to stay on for another minute or two. Why don't we finish with a little bit of time simply sitting together and practicing together. And thank you all so much for your kind attention this evening. I'll ring the gong in a couple of minutes. Thanks, everybody. Hope some of you will be able to join us tomorrow for our day of practice tomorrow. Wish you all a
Thank you.
good night.
Thank you, Ayya.
Thank you.